Still remember the morning when everything began to change, although at that time I did not realize it. The sun was rising slowly, and the city looked calm and full of promise. I felt confident, even proud of myself. I believed I knew what was best for my future, and I was sure my choice would lead me to success. Looking back now, I understand how wrong I was. At that stage of my life, I stood at an important crossroads. I had two clear paths in front of me. One path was safe and familiar. It required patience, effort, and time, but it was honest and steady. The other path looked exciting and fast. It promised quick success, easy money, and admiration from others. My family advised me to choose the safe path. My teachers warned me not to rush. But my friends praised the exciting option and told me I was brave for even considering it. I listened to the voices that matched my desires, not the ones that cared about my future. Deep inside, I already wanted the faster and easier road. I told myself that I was talented enough to handle the risks. I believed I was smarter than others and that failure would never touch me. With a confident smile, I made my choice. At first, everything felt perfect. I enjoyed the attention and the feeling of being ahead of others. While my old classmates worked slowly toward their goals, I felt like I was winning the race. I had more free time, more money, and more excitement in my life. Each small success convinced me that my decision was right. I ignored the small signs of trouble because they did not fit the story I was telling myself. Over time, those small signs grew bigger. The people I trusted started disappearing when things became difficult. Promises were broken, and opportunities that seemed guaranteed suddenly vanished. I began to feel uneasy, but I pushed that feeling away. I told myself that every successful person faces problems and that this was just part of the journey. Slowly, stress became a daily companion. I slept less and worried more. The excitement that once fueled me turned into pressure. I realized that my future depended on things I could not control. Instead of building real skills, I had built my life on hope and shortcuts. Still, I was too proud to admit my mistake. I kept moving forward, even when my heart told me something was wrong. The real turning point came one quiet evening. I sat alone in my room, surrounded by silence and unfinished plans. I checked my phone, hoping for good news, but there was nothing. No messages, no opportunities, no support. For the first time, I allowed myself to be honest. I admitted that my life was not moving forward. It was stuck. That night, memories of the past returned clearly. I thought about my parents' worried faces and my teacher's calm advice. I remembered how confident I had felt while ignoring them. A heavy feeling settled in my chest as I realized the truth. My situation was not bad luck or someone else's fault. It was the result of my own wrong choice. Accepting this truth was painful, but it was also freeing. I cried, not only because I had failed, but because I finally understood myself. I saw how my impatience and pride had guided my decision. I had chosen speed over growth and appearance over reality. That realization hurt deeply, but it opened my eyes. The next day, I made another choice. This time, it was not a big or exciting one. It was simple and humble. I decided to start again, even if it meant beginning from the bottom. I reached out to people I had ignored before. I apologized to my family and asked for guidance. I accepted opportunities that were smaller than what I once dreamed of, but they were real. The road back was not easy. I faced embarrassment and regret. Sometimes I compared myself to others who had chosen the safe path and were now ahead of me. Those moments were difficult, but I reminded myself that learning late was better than never learning at all. Each day, I focused on improving a little, step by step. Over time, I noticed a change. The fear inside me slowly turned into confidence, not the loud confidence I once had, but a quiet and steady one. I began to trust the process instead of chasing quick results. I learned the value of patience, honesty, and hard work. Most importantly, I learned to listen before deciding. Today, when I think about my wrong choice, I no longer feel only regret. I see it as a powerful lesson that shaped who I am now. That decision taught me that not every attractive path leads to success, and not every slow road is a waste of time. Life does not reward shortcuts in the long run. If I could speak to my younger self, I would tell him to slow down and listen. I would remind him that real success is built quietly and carefully. Although my wrong choice cost me time and comfort, it gave me wisdom that I will carry forever. And in the end, that lesson became the beginning of a better, wiser journey. Never planned to talk about my mistake, especially not in detail. For a long time, I tried to hide it, even from myself. I smiled in front of others and pretended everything was fine, but inside, I carried a quiet regret. This is the story of how I learned from a painful mistake and how that lesson slowly changed my life. After making the wrong choice, my days began to feel heavy. I woke up every morning with a sense of worry that I could not explain to anyone. What once felt exciting now felt uncertain and fragile. I realized that I was always waiting for something to happen instead of building something myself. The future I had imagined looked less real with every passing day. I tried to fix things quickly, just as I had chosen my path quickly. I searched for shortcuts to escape my situation, but every attempt failed. Each failure hurt more than the last because it reminded me of how careless I had been. I started blaming circumstances, people, and even fate. It was easier to blame others than to accept that my own decision had brought me here. One afternoon, I met an old friend by chance. We had studied together years ago, but our lives had taken very different directions. He spoke calmly about his work, his struggles, and his slow progress. There was no pride in his voice, only honesty. As I listened, I felt something uncomfortable growing inside me. His life was not perfect, but it was stable. He had built it step by step, while I had tried to jump too far too fast. That meeting stayed in my mind for days. For the first time, I compared not our success, but our foundations. I realized that while he had been learning and growing quietly, I had been chasing results without understanding the process. This realization was painful, but it was also clear. I could no longer escape the truth. Soon after, I faced a moment that forced me to change. An opportunity I was depending on completely fell apart. There was no backup plan, no safety net. I felt lost and ashamed. That night, I could not sleep. My thoughts were loud, and my heart felt heavy. I asked myself a simple but difficult question: what had I actually learned in all this time? The answer was disappointing. I had learned very little because I had avoided effort and responsibility. That answer hurt more than any failure. But instead of breaking me, it pushed me toward honesty. I finally admitted that I needed to change, not my situation, but myself. The next weeks were uncomfortable. I had to accept small tasks and beginner-level work. I had to listen more than speak and learn things I once ignored. My pride resisted at first. It reminded me of the dreams I once had and how far I had fallen from them. But slowly, I understood that pride was the same thing that had led me to my mistake. Learning again felt strange at my age, but it also felt real. Each new skill gave me a quiet satisfaction. I started to enjoy progress that came from effort rather than luck. Mistakes still happened, but now they taught me something instead of destroying my confidence. There were moments when regret returned strongly. Sometimes, I thought about where I could have been if I had chosen differently. Those thoughts were painful, but I learned not to live in them. I reminded myself that the past could not be changed, but the meaning of the past could. My mistake could either be a permanent wound or a lesson. The choice was mine. Gradually, my mindset began to change. I stopped looking for approval from others and started focusing on improvement. I learned to ask for help without feeling weak. I learned that slow progress is still progress. Most importantly, I learned to pause before making decisions, to think beyond excitement and fear. One day, I noticed something surprising. I was no longer angry at my past self. Instead, I felt understanding. I realized that I had made that wrong choice because I lacked experience, not because I was hopeless. That forgiveness gave me peace. It allowed me to move forward without carrying constant guilt. Now, when I face important decisions, I remember that painful mistake clearly. It reminds me to look at long-term consequences instead of short-term comfort. It reminds me that easy choices often demand a high price later. That memory has become my guide. Today, my life is not perfect, but it is honest. I work hard, I learn continuously, and I accept that growth takes time. The pain of my wrong choice did not disappear, but it transformed into wisdom. It taught me patience, humility, and responsibility. If someone asked me whether I would erase that mistake if I could, I am not sure. It caused me pain, yes, but it also taught me lessons I might never have learned otherwise. Sometimes, the wrong choice becomes the teacher we never wanted but deeply needed. I move forward now with clearer eyes and a calmer heart. I know I will make mistakes again, but I also know I will learn from them. And that knowledge, born from a painful past, has become my greatest strength.